Trends move fast. A new style, a new catchphrase, a new must-have appears. And suddenly half the world is doing the exact same thing, often without stopping to ask why. But there's another kind of person, the one who hates being trendy. Not casually dislikes it, rejects it on instinct, like the trend itself is trying to recruit them into a cult with matching outfits. For these individuals, popularity has the opposite effect. The moment something becomes mainstream, it loses its charm. The more everyone else does it, the less they want anything to do with it. Psychologically, this pattern points to a mix of strong individualism, high self-concept clarity, and low conformity motivation. Their mind resists blending in, even when blending in might be easier. Freud might say their ego refuses to share an identity with the crowd, a very Freud thing to refuse. And while the majority finds comfort in joining a trend, these people find comfort in avoiding it. Not because they're contrarian for sport, but because authenticity feels better than agreement. People who hate being trendy aren't simply trying to be different for the sake of drama. They're usually operating with a different psychological framework, one that resists social pull rather than absorbs it. In social psychology, there's a concept called reactance. When people feel their freedom of choice is being limited, they instinctively push back. For trend-resistant individuals, a trend doesn't feel like an option. It feels like pressure wearing a cute outfit. The more society says, everyone is doing this, the more their brain replies, wonderful, then I don't need to. This is tied to high autonomy motivation, a need to protect one's independence, even in small decisions. They're also often high in self-concept clarity, meaning their internal sense of who they are is stable enough that outside influences feel irrelevant. They're not rejecting the trend itself. They're rejecting the implication that their choices should sync with everyone else's. For people who hate being trendy, the issue usually isn't the trend itself. It's what the trend represents: sameness, mass adoption, and the slow blurring of individuality into whatever everyone else is doing. In psychology, this connects to self-verification, the need for your actions to align with your internal identity. When a trend doesn't match who they feel they are, it doesn't feel expressive. It feels borrowed. These individuals also tend to show low normative influence, meaning their brain doesn't automatically equate popularity with value. And once something becomes mainstream, the uniqueness evaporates. It stops feeling personal. It starts feeling like a uniform. To someone who values authenticity, trends don't look inviting. They look like invitations to dilute themselves. For trend-resistant people, following what's popular often feels strangely hollow. Not dramatic, not rebellious, just empty in a very specific psychological way. Part of this comes from self-determination theory, which suggests people feel most fulfilled when their choices come from internal motivation rather than external cues. Trends, by definition, are external cues. They tell you what to like, how to dress, what to buy. There's also a timing issue. Once something becomes trendy, it stops feeling like personal expression and starts feeling like participation. These individuals often prefer things that feel timeless, original, or personally meaningful, even if they're objectively out of style. Their satisfaction comes from the sense that they chose it, not that it was chosen for them by a wave of popularity. Another major reason trend-resistant people avoid whatever's popular is the social pressure attached to it. In social psychology, this relates to evaluation sensitivity, the subtle pressure that once you participate in a trend, you're suddenly open to critique. Trend-avoidant individuals prefer choices that don't require a performance score. They also tend to show a stronger independent self-construal, meaning their sense of identity comes from internal traits, not group membership. For these individuals, hearing, "You should try this, it's super trendy," feels about as convincing as someone saying, "Eat this, everyone else already chewed it first." Trend followers hear community. Trend avoiders hear contamination. People who dislike trends often process influence differently. Where most people absorb social cues automatically, they filter them. A quick internal check before letting anything shape their preferences. Psychologists call this cognitive independence, a tendency to rely on an inner compass rather than the crowd. When a trend appears, their mind doesn't think, "Everyone likes this." It thinks, "Does this actually fit me?" Freud would probably say their ego refuses to borrow its identity from the group, a classic "thank you, but no" response. Rapid trend changes feel less exciting and more unstable. They prefer authenticity over constant updates, not out of rebellion, but out of clarity. Trends make most people feel connected, a way to signal belonging, to move in sync with the world for a moment. But for people who hate being trendy, the opposite happens. The more popular something becomes, the less it feels like theirs. Authenticity fades the moment mass adoption begins. These individuals aren't rejecting culture, they're rejecting uniformity. They move through the world with a sense of identity that doesn't need matching outfits or shared slogans to feel solid. In a world that keeps shifting from one trend to the next, they break the rhythm, not to stand out, but to stay themselves. And if you prefer thinking for yourself too, you might as well let the algorithm know. Like the video, subscribe, and let's continue choosing originality together.